In 2013, Salisbury Museum acquired the archive of the artist Rex Whistler. Whistler lived from 1905 through to 1944 when he was tragically killed in battle as a tank commander during the Second World War. The archive covers the full remit of his career from the earliest drawings he did when he was a child, all the way through to the designs he did for murals in places like the Tate Britain in the 1920s, but also when he was a tank commander in the 1940s. We have illustrations that he did when he was actually in lessons studying to be an officer in the army. Let's have a look at some of the items in the collection. So this first box has a rather random selection of things, but we're going to go right back to some of the items he did when he was a child. So this drawing here was entered into a Royal Drawing Society competition when he was 12 years of age. And this to me at the top looks like a munitions factory that he may have visited during the First World War, perhaps on a school visit. Then he recalled all of that from memory. The bottom here is a street scene from Watford. And again, it actually says on there, from memory. Absolutely amazing. This is another Royal Drawing Society entry from when he was 16 years of age. He was very fond of myths and legends, things like Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves and the Arabian Nights story. So this is possibly where this story comes from. He's illustrated here. It's a little bit later. This is from 1925. It's actually a preparatory sketch that was then used as the design for an entry put into the summer competition when he was studying at the Slade School of Art. It's a trial scene from the the trial scene from the Merchant of Venice. And the reason it has all this red ink on it is actually because it's been marked up to be then transferred or rather translated into the final piece. This is from 1930. It's an engraving. It's not actually an original drawing, but it was designed by Rex Whistler, but it's hand coloured by him. It's a proof. It has some of his notes on there as well. It's from Gulliver's Travels. In fact, the centre there, the miniature figure, is Gulliver himself. So this was a deluxe version of the Gulliver's Travels story. Mural design here. This is a design he did at Port Limp in Kent, which belonged to Sir Philip Sassoon. It was a design done in 1930 when he executed the final piece in the early 1930s. At the centre, this is like a highway, a sort of high street scene, if you like. But at the centre there, you've got the Palladian Bridge, which of course he was familiar with because there is one at Wilton House where he often went to stay with his friend Edith Olivia. And the final thing I want to show you from this box is a sketchbook. This is actually, sorry, it's not a sketchbook, it's actually a notebook from his time in the army in about 1940. And what he often did, he got bored. And as you can see here, this is a design of a tank, a Baroque tank going over a bridge. There's a river, there's a boat, people boating, but then there's a waterfall at the bottom and all the water is pouring into the mouth of what looks like a fish or a dolphin. It's quite incredible, but I think it shows you that sometimes he probably wasn't paying attention in his lessons when he was training as a tank commander in the 1940s. Now, sticking with the theme of sketches, the next box along here is packed full of sketchbooks. Obviously in this film we don't have time to go through all of them, so I'm just going to highlight this first one here. This is from 1925. It says there on the front. And it's started in Italy. So we turn it over. There, Rex J. Whistler, 1925, and it says San Remo, Italy. And we open it up. It's pretty typical of his sketchbooks. Lots of different drawings, wonderfully executed illustration there of an old man. On this next page here, there's the Colosseum in Rome, watercolor. On the next page, there's another one. Yeah. Turn it back the other way. Didn't always do things the same way round. Some soldiers, probably from the Vatican in Rome. And then let's just go through. I mean, it's just packed full of random drawings. Lovely drawing of a spider there. But if we keep going, it then moves actually to some designs he did for the Shadwell Boys Club in 1925, which was the first mural design he was commissioned to do. It was arranged through Henry Tonks, who was his tutor at the Slade School of Art. But as we move through, there we go, there's another very familiar scene. It's the Palladium Bridge at Wilton. But typical Rex, got this beautiful illustration in the top right hand corner, something really grotesque. A man with an arrow through his head, dripping blood. Moving on from that, perhaps my favourite collection of items in the archive are the drawings he did for Hans Andersen's Fairy Tales and Legends. This is the book here, originally published in 1935. But we've got the original ink on scraper board drawings here, and these are some of the larger ones which we'll just go through. So that's the frontispiece there. That's the drawing for the Emperor's new clothes. But you'll notice that the Emperor's modesty has been protected there with that top that he's wearing, not quite naked, perhaps as you imagined in the story. It's a little mermaid, and I'll just read out with some of these the script that's written along the bottom. It says, "Music and song resounded from the deck." This is the Snow Queen. It says here, "She walked right into the water, seized the boat with her crutch, and drew it to land." This is from What the Moon Saw. It says, "The wreath of flowers on Columbine's grave was already faded as he sat down there." This is from The Marsh King's Daughter. "The savage ways of the little creature pleased him especially." And you can see the child crying there and looking absolutely terrifying. This is from Great Claus and Little Claus. "He hit the old grandmother in the head thinking she was Little Claus." This is so sinister, so dark, and it really sort of evokes that sense of these stories not always being perhaps the happiest of stories you might read. The Galoshes of Fortune. This is a time-travelling story, and here they're presented with a group of people who are incredibly poor. It says, "Some were blind, some crawled about with withered limbs. Here was wretchedness indeed." It's from The Nightingale. "It was the little living nightingale who was sitting on a branch outside," as you can see, just there, and there's death standing on the right-hand side, looking very sinister. And then finally, this is the Garden of Paradise. It says, "Do you see yonder rock and the large cave?" said the east wind. These drawings are all absolutely amazing. But of course, one of the problems is we can't display it all. This archive is absolutely huge. There are thousands of items. We are steadily cataloguing it all. We are steadily digitising it all. There are some images available on our website at the moment, but we cannot display it all. We have a corridor downstairs with some paintings by Rex Whistler, which we acquired before this archive, mainly of Wilton, showing Edith Olivia. But there's no space for anything more. So what I hope in the future is that we will get more online, but also that we can put more of it on display. We've got funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund to redevelop our more recent history collections and the displays that we have downstairs beneath this library where I'm standing. So I hope very much in the future we'll be able to do more with this fabulous collection.